when were you like, this is it, we've made it, this is a proper rugby podcast, like we are up there?
Don't know really. Like, I've never really felt like that. I feel like we've been successful. I feel like, I felt like we could do much better. I've never felt like we're made it. We're done. Like, I just feel like there's so much growth left in it. Yeah, I know that, like, it's legit and it's, people know it and it's, popular, and we're signed by Spotify, we have live shows that sell out, and that's awesome. Like, all that's awesome. Like, it's so great. That's not normal for all podcasts. And when we go to live shows and people getting there, like, wanting to hang out with you and stuff, you're like, what, these people that you've never met before, that, like, it's awesome. But it's not like, it doesn't feel like the journey is anywhere near where it's heading. It feels like there's a lot more growth in the rugby pod, and it's going to end up somewhere a lot bigger. And that's why you keep coming back. Like, you're on the journey, aren't you? And that's why with sorry, also with sorry, it's also like with the Andy Rowe shows, like, that you go through like ups and downs, and like the ratings go up and the ratings go down, and you go through all that, and you just from the experience of the journey that we've had on the rugby pod, like, that sooner or later, if you keep putting out good content, it will, like, start to snowball the way you think it will, and it will grow. But yeah, it's the rugby pod. I think there's just a lot more to come from the rugby pod as far as like where we can go and what we can achieve.
No, tell me about the live show. I'm really interested that you think it's not gone as far, because when I do this, I use. I don't know if you find this when you listen to any other podcast, if you manage to get a chance to listen to them between research, but I now listen to podcasts completely differently. I listen to things that I want to implement into my own podcast. But then, so it's really interesting, because the rugby pod is one of the ones that's up there for most people. So for you to say, well, we still see ourselves as down here and we still have things that we look up and aspire to do, is a really interesting. I suppose it comes with the mindset of, like, the people you are, and like Goody is, like Jim is, you've all been at the top of everything you've done. So it's quite, I don't know how to say it. It's almost inspiring in a way to see the people that you think are at the top are still saying, no, there's still so much more we need to do to get better.
Yeah, well, I think the grass always looks greener, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's not always the case. Like, I think if you start to feel like you've topped out, then people are just going to catch you. I know that sounds a bit cliche, but they will. Like, you've got to be constantly searching for ways to improve and get better. I think there's so many great podcasts and great personalities there's so many funny people, as I said earlier, like, people that can tell stories, people that can you could go out there and you could put together a better podcast. You could put together people that are funnier, that are people that are more intelligent, people that are better looking. You might struggle with that, I don't know, but the key for us is that, because we've been doing it for so long as well, we've got that continuity, but we've also understand what works, understand what doesn't, but also looking for that extra something, always looking for that extra something that's going to make us better. And I don't think we ever quite, I don't feel like we ever quite nail it, but you can certainly get close. Like you do get off the end of a show sometimes, and you're like, that was a really good show, really felt good. That people are going to love that. Same when I did an interview with the Andy Rowe show, you're like, people are going to love this. But then that's done. Like that's done. Like that show's listened to, that interview's listened to. Those ratings have come and gone, and there's the next week. Like, what are you doing next week that's going to be better than last week, or how do you keep that standard up? And it's that constant pressure that you keeps you like thinking about. We haven't made it. If we had made it, we'd have people that would be doing all that for us. But we do it all. Like we've got we're either doing the research, or putting together the questions, or finding the guests. It's not. We definitely haven't made it.
I like that, because I remember I was watching an interview with a podcast host, and I can't remember who it was for the life of me, but he said that as well. He said the worst thing about having a really good episode is you then have to make sure the next 5 episodes are even better, because you're going to get all these people that come in for that one, and then the next 5 have to be just as good.
Yeah.
So my next 5 guests really need to step it up after this, is what I'm going to tell them.
I don't know about that. I think you might peak. So if you go back,
so quietly with that as well. I liked it. It's just so quiet.
If you go back, like sometimes they get better as well. So it depends what kind of podcast you're doing as well. Sometimes, so like for example, if we pre-record 10 people, we'll always put out the best that we've got. So naturally, it's going to tail off. But you'll be doing interviews along the way that you're trying to boost up the quality again. But we always put our best one out, because like if you come and listen to one of my podcasts on the Andy Rowe show, then you should scroll through and see if you like any other ones, because they're all timeless. Most of them are, by timeless, I mean they're not time sensitive. So I might have a podcast coming up to Christmas, but I'll never talk about Christmas. Or it might be in the middle of winter. I'll never talk about the weather. So that people can listen to it any time and feel like it's relevant for their situation.
Yeah.
But like if you look at, so the idea is that if you do listen to a podcast and you enjoy it, then you will go back and listen to the ones that I've already done, and that's where the standard might improve. Hopefully, I don't know if that makes sense.
I'm gaining inspiration from it, and I hope the listeners are gaining inspiration from it, and that's what counts. So I remember I said this because one of my mates said that. He was like, he was looking at my Twitter page for the Over in 80 Minutes podcast, and he was like, all you do is communicate and interact with other podcasts. And I'm like, well, yeah, because if everybody keeps making better podcasts, then it forces you to get better as well. So the standard just automatically becomes higher, and you have to work harder. Because there's no point I'm not going to walk around trying claiming I'm the first person to ever have a podcast, because that would just be a blatant lie. So you might as well acknowledge that you're in a competition and